Madhurya Kadambini. The Cloud Bank of Nectar by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. Fifth shower of nectar, realization of transcendental taste. Text 1. The awakening and symptoms of ruchi, and ruchi as the factor that awakens āsakti. Sanskrit Bhāvānuvāda. After the stage of nishtha, the devotee, by carrying in his heart the golden medallion of bhakti, which has been burnished by the fire of steady practice and which bears its own unique splendor, experiences the awakening of ruchi, that is, pure spiritual taste in bhakti. At that time, the distinctive delight the sādhaka feels in performing one particular limb of bhakti over another is called ruchi. When ruchi is awakened, a person does not experience even the slightest trace of fatigue in his repeated performance of hearing, chanting, and other limbs or angas of devotion, as he did at previous stages. This ruchi quickly makes the devotee addicted to his practice of the angas of bhakti. In other words, ruchi leads to the awakening of intense attachment or āsakti to such practice. For example, a Brahmin boy, by regularly studying the scriptures, gradually gains a proper understanding of their meaning. As a result, a relish for such study awakens in his heart. His delight is such that his study does not cause him the slightest fatigue. Rather, it serves only to intensify his attachment to scripture. Pīyūṣa-varṣiṇī-vṛtti. The fourth shower of nectar discussed nishtha in bhajan. Just as gold becomes dazzling by being heated in fire, similarly, the golden medallion of bhakti is burnished by the fire of sādhaka's practice of bhajan with nishtha. By keeping that medallion in his heart, the sādhaka attains ruchi in bhakti. A golden gem on a person's chest gives the chest a golden hue and causes it to appear magnificent. In a similar way, the heart of a devotee carrying the radiant medallion of bhakti becomes effulgent. Consequently, the devotee progressively develops greater fondness for chanting than for hearing, and still greater fondness for remembering than for chanting. The distinct relish one obtains from transcendental perception of the forms, qualities, pastimes, etc. of Sri Krishna and his associates is called ruchi. In his commentary on Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1.4.15, Śrīla Jiva Gosvāmī has written that ruchi is understood to mean a desire, but one that is guided by one's intelligence, buddhi purvakam. In other words, it refers to a longing or thirst for Sri Krishna. If this thirst is imbued with a favorable disposition towards him, it is the very life force of bhakti. Along with the awakening of such thirst for one's cherished Sri Krishna, a longing to serve him with affection and warmth also arises automatically. It is for this reason that Śrīla Jiva Gosvāmī has written that desire or abhilasha is of three types: a deep yearning to do what is favorable for Sri Krishna, anukulya abhilasha; a deep yearning to serve him with intimacy, saudharya abhilasha; a deep yearning to attain him, praptya abhilasha. When the desire to please Sri Krishna by serving him with genuine affection arises, the desires to attain him and to serve him with intimacy also appear in the heart automatically. At the stage of ruchi, these desires are impelled by the intelligence, and at the stage of āsakti, they are spontaneous. Ruchi pertains to one's performance of bhajan of Sri Hari. The sadhaka's relish of the distinctive speciality of each aspect of bhakti in relation to Sri Hari's forms, qualities, and pastimes is called ruchi. When ruchi awakens, one does not experience even the slightest scent of fatigue in continuous hearing and chanting, unlike at the previous stages. This ruchi causes a deep attachment or asakti to hearing, chanting, and so forth to manifest in the heart of the devotee. Subsequently, any time spent in activities that are unrelated to Bhagwan seems exceedingly worthless. Before the stage of ruchi, one is not able to fully relish topics about Sri Krishna, but at the stage of ruchi, such topics are extremely delectable, and Madhurya, a delightful sweetness, is realized. In his commentary on Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1.4.15 and 17, Śrīla Jiva Gosvāmī has written that at the stage of ruchi, the seed of sinful activity is completely destroyed, and one begins to experience the sweetness of bhajan. In the same commentary, Śrīla Jiva Gosvāmī has also explained that to relish the forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Krishna exclusively is to realize his delightful sweetness. When ruchi for Hari Katha is awakened, a person never feels satiated by hearing and speaking about the attributes of Sri Krishna. In Śrīmad Bhagavatam 1.1.19, it is said, Vayantu na vitrapyam uttam shloka vikrame yashramataam rasagyanam svadu svadu pade pade. The sages headed by Sri Shaunak Rishi said, O Suta Goswami, even though we have repeatedly heard about the valorous pastimes of Sri Hari, who is glorified by exalted prayers, we are not satiated. To hear the pastimes of Sri Hari spoken by Rasik devotees is supremely relishable at every moment. Śrīmad Bhagavatam 1.2.8 states, Dharma svanishtita punsam vikshvaksena kathasuya na utpatyed yadi ratim shram evahi kevalam. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own social position are nothing but useless labor if they do not initiate an attraction for hearing Hari Katha. In his Kram Sandarbha commentary on the above verse from Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Śrīla Jiva Gosvāmī has determined that taste in bhajan awakens with taste for Hari Katha. He has written that indeed, in every way, taste for Hari Katha is the first and also the highest step. When a student first reads a particular scripture, he needs to endeavor assiduously to ascertain its essence, which he finds abstruse. Consequently, he does not find his study relishable. In time, however, when the actual meaning of the scripture dawns on him, he finds great satisfaction and delight in such study, and his effort is completely devoid of strain. Similarly, the bhajan of sādhakas entering the path of bhakti is somewhat slack, because they do not experience relish in practicing the limbs of bhajan. Bhajan seems extremely difficult to them, but by persisting in their practice, their heart gradually becomes cleansed and they relish bhajan rasa. To the degree that this takes place, they experience the awakening of taste in bhajan. Text 2. Bhakti destroys ignorance and awakens a taste for bhakti. Sanskrit Bhāvānuvāda. The actual conclusion can be understood as follows. For the tongue afflicted by jaundice, the mere taste of natural rock candy is unpleasant. Nonetheless, according to the opinion of the wise, such rock candy is actually the cure for jaundice. By regularly taking rock candy, one can gradually perceive its sweetness and a taste for it develops. In the same way, by continuously engaging in bhakti, characterized by Shravan, Kirtan, etc., the heart of the living entity polluted by nescience or avidya and so forth becomes cleansed of these defects, and ruchi for bhakti is awakened. Pīyūṣa-varṣiṇī-vṛtti. Here, Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura asserts that one whose tongue is afflicted by jaundice finds rock candy, which is naturally sweet, to be bitter. Ayurvedic doctors tell us that rock candy is a most effective medicine for jaundice. that one who takes it regularly will be cured. And to the degree that one is cured, one will gradually appreciate its sweetness. Similarly, although a person whose mind is afflicted by the contamination of ignorance or avidya, false identification or asmita, material attachment or raga, aversion or dvesha, and absorption in worldly objects or abhinivesha, may hear and extol the names, forms, qualities and pastimes of Sri Hari, which are superlatively sweet by nature, he does not relish that sweetness. Exalted and enlightened personalities declare this Shravan and Kirtan of the names, forms, qualities and pastimes of Sri Hari to be the sole elixir for destroying the disease of ignorance and other such impurities. By continuous hearing and recitation, the heart is gradually cleansed of pollution and the disease of ignorance vanishes. To the degree that this takes place, one will develop a taste in Shravan, Kirtan and so forth. This is how the sādhaka's taste is awakened in these practices. Bhagwan Sri Krishna describes this to Uddhava in Śrīmad Bhagavatam 11:14-26. Yatha yathatma parimrajyate aso mat punya gatha shravanabhidhanehe tatha tatha pashyati vastu sukshmam chakshur yathe vanjan samprayuktam. O Uddhava, just as defective eyes are cured by the application of collyrium and begin to develop the power to see minute objects, so the mind is cleansed of mundane contamination by hearing and speaking about my pastimes, which are supremely purifying. The sadhaka thus begins to perceive subtle reality. In other words, he is able to experience the sweetness of my names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. Text 3. Taste dependent on external excellence in relation to Bhagwan and taste not dependent on such external excellence. Sanskrit Bhāvānuvāda. Ruchi is of two types. First, Ruchi that is dependent on external excellence in relation to Bhagwan, Vastu Vaishishta Apekshani. And second, Ruchi that is not dependent on external excellence in relation to Bhagwan, Vastu Vaishishta Anapekshani. Here Vastu refers to the names, forms, qualities and pastimes of Sri Bhagwan, and Vaishishta refers to the external excellence. For example, one may anticipate a pleasing and sweet melody in Kirtan. One may be eager to hear a description of the transcendental characteristics and pastimes of Bhagwan. That is expressed in appropriate, ornate language, voice, tone, and so forth. Or one may expect, in accordance with one's cherished standard, that the service and the worship of Bhagwan is performed appropriately and to perfection in terms of place, time, person, purity of ingredients, etc. The ruchi that develops in one who is dependent on these external excellences is called Vastu Vaishishta Apekshani Ruchi. This is likened to a person who sits down to take a meal and asks, "What kind of dishes have been prepared? How tasteful are they?" Such inquiries would be symptomatic of a mild appetite only. Vastu Vaishishta Apekshani Ruchi is something like that. If one's mind is contaminated by the slightest trace of impurity, then one's taste in Kirtan and other limbs of bhakti will depend upon the above-mentioned external excellences. We should know that this type of ruchi reveals that one's mind is still enveloped in the layer of contamination. The second type of ruchi, however, Vastu Vaishishta Anapekshani Ruchi, taste that is not dependent on external excellence in relation to Bhagwan, is extremely powerful from the moment one engages in Shravan and Kirtan of Sri Bhagwan's names, forms, and so forth. And if excellence in relation to Sri Bhagwan's names, forms, and so forth happens to be present, for example, when the Kirtan is performed with melody, meter, musical flourishes, etc., then this ruchi ripens even more, and one becomes fulfilled with immense delight. It is to be understood that not even the slightest scent of any defect remains in the heart of one in whom this type of ruchi has awakened. Pīyūṣa-varṣiṇī-vṛtti. Ruchi is of two types, Vastu Vaishishta Apekshani and Vastu Vaishishta Anapekshani. First, Vastu Vaishishta Apekshani. Taste or ruchi, which is dependent on the external excellence of an object or vastu. We should understand that here the word vastu refers to Bhagwan. When there is an expectation that kirtan of the names, forms, qualities and pastimes of Sri Bhagwan should be performed with wonderful melodies and proper rhythm and meter, then the narrations about him should contain enchanting descriptions endowed with ornate language, or that service and worship of the deity of Sri Bhagwan should be performed in a cherished and pure place, at an appropriate time and with charming ingredients. It indicates Vastu Vaishishta Apekshani Ruchi. In other words, in the absence of these elements, one's relish is not awakened. Before taking a meal, a person with little appetite will ask, what foodstuffs have been prepared? How palatable are they? Conversely, a person who is famished will not ask such questions. He accepts whatever has been prepared, whether it is tasty or not. In the same way, those with a strong taste for the limbs of bhakti do not carry the expectation that the kirtan should be melodic, cadential, rhythmic, and so forth. The minds of those who hold such expectations have not been purified completely. It is to be understood that a trace of contamination still exists. Second, Vastu Vaishishta Anapekshani. Taste or ruchi that is not dependent on the external excellence of an object or vastu. A person with this type of ruchi does not expect any of the above mentioned excellences. From the outset, his hearing and chanting of the names, forms, qualities, etc. of Sri Bhagwan is resolute, intense, and brimming with enthusiasm. Such ruchi is composed of unflinching faith in the names, forms, qualities, pastimes, and worship of Sri Bhagwan. It does not hinge upon melodic, rhythmic, or musical elements in the performance of kirtan. But if the features of external excellence are present, then ruchi develops further into an extremely mature state. For example, an exceedingly hungry person eats food without caring whether it is tasty or not. He happily consumes plain rice, even without an accompanying dish of mixed vegetables. At the same time, if various first-class dishes are available, he experiences an even more astonishing relish of them. Thus, ruchi that does not rely on any external excellence is referred to as Vastu Vaishishta Anapekshani Ruchi. If, however, such excellence is present, this ruchi matures greatly and becomes completely delectable. When this type of ruchi is awakened, not even the slightest scent of the impurity of dependence on external attributes lingers in the heart. Text 4. The despondency and bliss of a person in whom ruchi has awoken. Sanskrit Bhāvānuvāda. O my friend, having abandoned the nectar of the name of Sri Krishna, why are you becoming absorbed in talk of acquiring and maintaining that which is difficult to attain? What shall I say to you? Fie on me indeed. By the mercy of the lotus feet of Sri Guru, a most sinful person like me attains something as great as devotion to the Supreme Lord, or Bhagavad Bhakti. Not understanding its value, I have forgotten about it, just as one may forget about a precious jewel bound within the hem of one's cloth. In this way, I wander here and there in the hope of attaining false, insignificant happiness, just as one searches in all four directions for a chipped kaudi, a shell used as money. I have abandoned the practice of Bhagavad Bhakti and wasted my entire life, wandering throughout the ocean of worldly sense gratification. By not accepting and engaging in any of the activities of bhakti, I have exposed my complete powerlessness. Alas, alas, my tongue also, like me, is wicked by nature. to this day, it licks up bitter gossip, which is full of falsity, as if it were nectar, but it is lazy to taste the ambrosial names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Bhagwan. Alas, alas, sleepiness overwhelms me as soon as I sit to hear Hari Katha, but if material gossip starts, then my sleepiness vanishes, and I'm all ears, eager to imbibe it with complete attentiveness. In this way, time and again I have disgraced the assembly of saintly persons. Even in my old age, what bad activity have I not endeavored to perform merely to fill my ever dissatisfied belly? I do not know in which hell I am destined to suffer the results of these wicked acts, nor for how long. The swan-like devotee, gripped by this taste of lamentation while living on this earth, repeatedly relishes and offers obeisance to the nectarous characteristics of Sri Bhagwan. Such characteristics are the essence of the fruit of the wish-fulfilling vine of great Upanishads, which hold the most confidential of all topics. Leaving aside all mundane talk, such a devotee first sits in an assembly of sadhus, then resides near those sadhus, and finally enters their fellowship. Sometimes he takes refuge in Bhagwan's holy abode, where he performs steadfast, immaculate service to him. He completely gives his mind to that service and eventually attains full absorption in it. To the ignorant, he appears to be scatterbrained. But the female dancer named Ruchi personally begins to give him lessons on the rapturous dance of bhajan, as if taking him by both hands. Consequently, that devotee is seized by an unprecedented joy. In due course, when the two teachers of dance, Bhava and Prema, make him dance, who can know in which realm of bliss he will reside? Thus ends the Bhāvānuvāda of the fifth shower of nectar named Uplabdha Asvada, or realization of transcendental taste. Pīyūṣa-varṣiṇī-vṛtti. A sādhaka in whom Ruchi has awakened manifests bodily, vocal, and mental anubhavas, or expressions of the spiritual emotions of the heart. Here, Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura describes the behavior of such a sadhaka so that we can easily understand it. A person whose heart has blossomed with ruchi is called a jata ruchi sadhaka. Such a sadhaka converses with his companion, the mind, as follows. O my friend, why do you abandon the nectar of the sweet name of Sri Krishna and instead remain absorbed in talking about how to acquire and maintain material objects which are extremely troublesome to attain? To the degree that ruchi for Sri Krishna's names, forms, qualities and pastimes has awakened in the sadhaka, he develops a corresponding distaste for that which is unrelated to Krishna, such as a disdain for material objects and topics. Upon noting the earnestness of his beloved friend, his mind, to amass material objects, the jata ruchi sadhaka feels much sadness. Indeed, the nature of bhakti is such that when she even slightly manifests her splendor within the sadhaka regards himself as most unqualified and degraded, and he begins to condemn himself. It is solely this distress, characterized by the feeling that he has no bhakti, that gradually elevates him to the higher stages of sadhana. A jata ruchi sadhaka condemns himself as follows. O my friend, O mind, what more can I say to you? Fie on me. I am most wretched and detestable. By the mercy of my Gurudeva, I attained Bhagavad Bhakti, but I did not honor it even slightly. Just as one who easily attains a precious jewel and binds it in the hem of one's cloth becomes unmindful of it. Instead, just to fill my belly, I wandered here and there in search of insignificant wealth, and I absorbed myself in materialistic gossip. In this way, my whole life has passed in vain. Unable to perform bhajan, I spent all my time engrossed in mundane talk and false gossip. which are related only to the sense gratification and not to Sri Krishna. Still, I relish this with my tongue as if it were nectar, and I was indolent in regard to hearing Krishna's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. Alas, alas, I would become overwhelmed with sleepiness as soon as I started to hear Hari Katha. But if at that time some mundane gossip began, my sleepiness would instantly disappear and I would become all ears. I do not know how many times I have disgraced the assembly of saintly persons by such behavior. If someone begins to fall asleep while listening to Hari Katha in an assembly of devotees, it affects other listeners who then also feel sleepy. Someone observing this may wonder, do the people in this assembly sleep even while hearing Hari Katha? His criticism passes from one person to another, and as a result, the entire assembly of sadhus is defamed. A sādhaka in whom Ruchi has appeared remembers this past condition and reprimands himself. Lamenting thus, a Jata Ruchi devotee continues, although I am old, what wicked acts have I not attempted to perform, simply to fill my belly, which is never satisfied? To endure the result of these sinful acts, I do not know what hellish planet I am destined for, nor for how long. In this way, being gripped by a state of callousness to the material world, the swan-like devotee repeatedly relishes the nectarian characteristics of Sri Hari. These characteristics are the very essence of the fruit born of wish-fulfilling vine of the great Upanishads, and they emanate from the lotus lips of exalted, saintly personalities inhabiting this earth. The sadhaka now leaves aside all mundane talk and exclusively resides in the society of sadhus. Sometimes he enters the temple of Bhagwan and becomes steadfastly absorbed in performing immaculate, loving service to him. In this way, all the limbs of bhakti, such as hearing, chanting, and worshipping, become supremely relishable for the Jata Ruchi sadhaka. The ignorant think such a sadhaka mad. The most expert dance instructress, Ruchi, takes him by the hands and, in the assembly of devotees, imparts to him teachings from the lessons on the dance of devotional bliss or bhajan ananda, which bestows supreme happiness. At this time, he experiences an ecstasy like never before. In due course, the two masters of dance, Bhava and Prema, come to instruct him. Who then will be able to describe the extent of the bliss he experiences? Such ecstasy is inexpressible. The sequence in which Vastu Vaishishta Anupekshani Ruchi is awakened and comes to its fully ripened stage has thus been described. This Ruchi matures and grows, and at the appropriate time culminates in Bhava and Prema. The author has elucidated this here. The state prior to Bhava, Asakti, is described next in the 6th shower of Nectar. Thus ends the Pīyūṣa-varṣiṇī-vṛtti on the 5th shower of Nectar named Uplabdha Aswad, or realization of transcendental